Please welcome Michael Clayton, our expert on drones. I'll let you do the rest.
Thank you. Uh, my apologies for the tech delay. If you really want to foul things up, get a computer, right? Or add a computer to it or something to that effect. My name is Michael Clayton. I am the Director of Operations for Great Lakes Rescue, which is a part of overall the Great Lakes Drone Company located in Coloma, Michigan. Together, we also provide aerial light show displays through our subpart Starlight Aerial Productions. Great Lakes Rescue is our public safety side, which deals with then becomes two other divisions. Our EMS division, which is we provide MFR, BLS, and advanced life support, non-transport services to the Coloma City, Coloma Township, and Hager Township areas. And then our drone emergency response team, which provides drone services and assistance to 6 different counties, about a dozen different entities that call upon us from time to time, and whatnot. I'll go through some of that a little deeper as we move or go through my presentation this afternoon. So Great Lakes Drone Company was formed in 2016 by a gentleman named Matthew Quinn, who's my boss, so overall owner and CEO of the company. Great Lakes started with inspection, real estate, photography, just very simple, humble beginnings, kind of just getting it. If you remember, 2016 was about when drones became commercially available to the commercial market, but it was no longer just a military thing that you'd hear about every so often. From there, about a year later, there was a need for, especially with wildfires out west starting to kick up and concern over fireworks and pyrotechnics catching things on fire. There was a push for, hey, how do we make these light show displays? I believe in 2016 too, there was one of the Olympics in China, and I might be getting my dates wrong here. Forgive me, it's been a long weekend. But they put on a really cool torch lighting ceremony with a couple thousand drones during their opening ceremonies. And so that kind of made the push for, hey, if they can do that, we can do that here. So then Starlight Aerial Productions was born just a year later in 2017. 2018, the company got into the public safety side of operations with Great Lakes Rescue. And in 2023, if you fast forward a few years, we've been dabbling in the area of agricultural spraying, as well as we have a studio part of our company now, MV Sage 126. So very humble of, you think of Coloma, you think of probably peaches. Glad Peach Festival coming up this weekend, just throwing it out there. Usually is a pretty good spread, not gonna lie. I've got stuck there the last 2 years, and I have not gone hungry or thirsty, or, well, I've gone without sleep, but that's a whole nother story. So, oh, I did have pictures. I forgot I put an animation to this slide. So that's Matt, that's my boss. The funny story about this is that Matt and I went through EMT school back in high school together. Yeah, we became friends after high school. And the funnier part is we would hang out. I was in his wedding. He moved away to become a flight medic for a while. I went a different path in 911. And fast forward to 2023, I had randomly come across this job ad for looking for drone pilots and visual observers. And I get a phone call. So I applied on a Friday, got a phone call on Monday. Hey, you know who this is, right? And I'm like, yeah, I got caller ID, bro. It's 2023. And anyways, I'm like, how you been? All right. Hey, so you applied for my company. I'm like, Matt, forgive me. I'm a little living under a rock for the past few years. What company is that? Great Lakes Drone Company. I'm like, okay, what all do you do? How do you become and the next thing I know, I'm a member of Great Lakes Rescue, and then Fast forward 4 months, I got my pilot's license, and fast forward a couple weeks after that, I became captain of East Division Operations, and then 6 months later, I became director of operations. So, to say that that's kind of a whirlwind uh, is an understatement. Uh, before getting my job with Great Lakes, I knew drones went up and somebody controlled them from the ground, and that was about the basic education I had. Yeah, as I stated, Starlight Aerial Productions is there. That is our lighted drone show arm. If you are familiar with anything with aviation, we had EAA Adventure out in Oshkosh, Wisconsin last week. The Starlight team, everybody was there except for me. Somebody had to stay back and run the shop. But they were all out there. They did some amazing things. And the cool thing about those shows with we put on during the air shows is that uh, they not only does the crew get together with some of the stunt pilots, but they also get together with a pyro crew. And so as we're flying drones and putting shapes up in the air, there's a stunt pilot flying around, blowing smoke in the air, and there's fireworks just blowing up. And it's all within like a few 100 feet of each other, like whatever the minimum space is. That's where I kind of go, not my cup of tea, man. You give me lost grandma gums out there in the wilderness, I'm on it. But no, don't put me responsible for that many drones. They will crash. They will hit the ground. It will be ugly. FAA will get involved. But anyway, so they were just at that last week, and we've got another 5 shows coming up this weekend. The summer is always a very busy time for us on the show side, on the with Starlight, because of course everybody's having festivals and wants to put drones in the sky. So Great Lakes Rescue, like I said, formed in 2020 or 2018, excuse me. And then we have Farmbotics and MV Sage. Part of my team that works with me almost on a daily basis, from the top left corner is Haley Carpenter. She is actually the director of operations for Starlight Aerial Productions and an absolute genius when it comes to the technical aspects of these drones that we fly. It does not matter if it's a show drone, if it is a one of our fleet drones for the rescue side. If I can't figure it out by pushing a bunch of random buttons, I usually just go, Haley, fix it. And we have desks right next to each other in the office, so it's always kind of fun. She goes, what'd you do this time? Jeff Atchison, going from the left to right on the top. Jeff Atchison is my East Division captain of operations. So he actually deals with Berry and Kalamazoo counties as far as being one of my leadership team up there. He comes from a background of public safety as well. So a lot of times we always have these philosophical questions if you could rewrite all the policy and whatnot. And he's the guy to do it. He is a certified professional emergency manager. So when I show you my background in a minute, it'll make sense. Moving right, Jen Clayton might ring a bell. That's my significant other, my better half. At least the brains of the operation, I tell her. I'm just a pretty face. Made for radio. She is also our lieutenant of Kalamazoo County operations. So she's a part of my command team because 9 times out of 10, if I'm stuck in Coloma working at the office, she's the next person up for if we catch a drone call in Kalamazoo County. And it happens way more than I care to admit. Moving down to the bottom row, Megan Quinn is my director of EMS. So she deals with all things EMS related as far as other than the signing off of our licenses and some other stuff. And there is no one better to have making sure that all of our stock is not expired than her. And I don't know how she does it because there are a lot of items that we have to track, but she's able to do it. Nick Quinn, this is not a flattering picture of him, but that's the only one I had for an ID, so I stole it. He is my lieutenant of Berrien County operations, our drone truck out there, and he's also one of our pilots, or actually everybody in here except for Jen and Gary are pilots. remote pilots, obviously. And then you have Gary Roberts III. He is my battalion's aide and visual observer. So if Jen is not available, which typically during the day, because my wife has one of those cushy doctor's office jobs, 8 to 3 or 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, excluding weekends, holidays, and everything else. Gary's usually my go-to during the day. As well as he also assists me with a lot of other projects that we have going on. So that's just some of my crew. I have, as I tried not to do overkill here just because I feel like this is not about me, but obviously I'm the director of operations for Great Lakes Rescue. I have oversee the 2 divisions, drone, ERT, and EMS. I have a combined about 40 plus members on rescue between my 1 captain, 2 lieutenants, EMS operations manager, 7 pilots, 14 visual observers, and 12 apparatus that I oversee between rehab bus, boat, ATV. You're probably wondering why the heck do you have a boat when you fly drones? I'll explain that one in a second. And about 28 different drones. My background is I probably should have done this backwards. I have 25 years of public safety experience, primarily being a 911 dispatcher who came up in the ranks from just lowly call taker trainee to I had the opportunity to be director of my own 911 center down in central Indiana. I've also been an emergency medical technician just as long, a firefighter, reserve police officer. I've got varied experience in both. I hold a bachelor's of science in emergency management from Jacksonville State University in Jacksonville, Alabama. That was the only minor or any kind of recognized college degree that had any kind of telecommunications experience with it that didn't require me to go through a dispatch academy at the time I was searching for colleges. So I was like, you know what, I'll buy it because I know nothing about emergency management. And then right afterward, I'm like, what's 5 more semesters? Let's go get a master's degree. So I went and got a master's of science in emergency management as well from Jacksonville. So like I stated, 2 different divisions. We have our emergency medical services. Most of our rigs, except for I think 5, are licensed with the state of Michigan as EMS non-transport. That means we hold down the scene until the transporting ambulance arrives. We hand them off, help them get them in the rig, and we go, see ya. Good luck to you, and off they go in the ambulance. As I stated before, we cover the city of Coloma Township, and Hager Townships. We provide all 3 levels of EMS, MFR, BLS or EMT basic level, and advanced life support capabilities. So I have medics, I have EMTs, I have medical first responders that I deal with. And we added ALS capabilities in April. And now I have 6 paramedics that are on the roster. And that is sometimes nuts to me because 2 years ago, I would have never thought it was a 1-man operation. All we had to do was make sure that we had somebody in the seat to be able to respond to calls. And now we're covering racetracks and other events and whatnot for medical coverage, just in case somebody falls down or somebody has something happen. We're there. Our drone division, as I stated before, we cover 5 different counties with capabilities for search and rescue, water rescue, fire standbys, building searches, overwatch, and anti-drone tracking. So if the sign says at a big event, don't fly your drones, we have the ability to kind of say, hey, someone's flying a drone over here, and they're flying it from this location, which is nuts. I never would have thought that would be part of our mission profiles, but here we are. Our company logo is mission ready. Our company mission statement is mission ready. One thing I push with all of my pilots and VOs and any member of my staff is that you have to check the rigs. And trust me, I get some people that are like, do I have to do a rig check? Yes, you do. And the reason for that is because when the tones go off and we get alerted by our cell phone on an app, that's the last or before that was the last chance you had to make sure that your equipment was ready. but we are ready to take on a whole lot of stuff, as you'll find out here. We typically, our bread and butter on the drone side is search and rescue missions. Little Johnny didn't want to clean his room, so he ran away into the woods. Grandma said she was going to walk down to the corner store that hasn't existed for 50 years because she's got some issues with either Alzheimer's or dementia. Those are our main base of how we catch our calls. If you look at the areas we serve, we don't have a whole lot of departments that have huge budgets. So buying a drone would be one thing for them. Then paying for the licensing, which actually isn't that bad. It's $5 or $10 through the FAA. The problem becomes, though, getting those same public safety professionals pilot certified, because you have to have your Part 107 in order to fly, if you're being paid for it. If you're not being paid, then it's a recreational thing. Don't think that the FAA hasn't thought about, oh, well, I'm just recreationally trying to find grandma who walked away from her house. And yeah, that's not how that works. The FAA has figured that out, trust me. But that's our bread and butter, is search and rescue. And we have the ability to not only do aerial searches for missing persons, but we have the ability to do in water searches. We have 5 assets that are underwater drones, basically, and sonar. We have a boat. Our boat contains 3 different types of sonar equipment in order to search underneath the surface of the water. And we've had success at finding people that have gone in the river. So with that, we also do article searches. So if somebody was in a police pursuit and they tossed a gun out the window, same thermal camera, we will fly over that area where they think they last saw it and try and attempt to locate the gun. We've also been asked to search for a gun under the water in a pond, and that was 2 very gross days of my life I wish I could get back, because that pond was yuck. But also, if you ever get an email from me, you'll see that I also include, "We're there when you need us." And that is a Chicago Fire Department slogan. It's slapped on every one of their trucks almost. And it's kind of like, we're there when you need us. Well, duh, you're 911, right? But I had my dad way back when, once he kind of figured out what I was doing as a 911 dispatcher, is like, if you're not sitting there to answer the phone, if you're not sitting there to push that call out, how are the responders going to figure out that something's going on? Because they're not going to call and you immediately, you call 911, you get a 911 professional. I'm not breaking anybody's bubble by explaining that, right? Everybody knows the police officer isn't on the other end of 911 when you call, right? Or the EMT or the firefighter. There's a 911 professional. I may or may not have eaten a lot of cheeseburgers on the job or pizza, but usually it was me with either a pop or a water answering your call for many, many years. I was always at work, I felt like. So when I kind of made the connection there as I moved up in leadership, that became my tagline in any of my emails. So I add that as well. We're there when you need us. And we, as a company, it's great too, because our philosophy is that we don't care if you're like, we're in Holland. Holland doesn't have an agreement with Great Lakes, but by God, if you call us because little Bobby got or mistakenly got pulled away from mom or something like that at the Tulip Festival grounds, and you call us and say, "Hey, it's been a ton of hours. We don't have any resources for this, or you have a specialized resource. Could you come help?" We're not going to say, "Oh, only if you pay," or "Oh, only if only if you agree to utilize us." No, we don't play that game. Our response will be, "We'll be on the way. Let me put this out, muster a team. I'll let you know. I'll let you know, ETA, when we get there, what channel do we need to talk to you on." My boss has said, I don't care if I don't make money on the rescue side, as long as we help people, as long as we are able to help rectify the situation, find people, find kiddos. the whole 9 yards. And that's a great part about my job, especially being the leader of the Great Lakes Rescue, is that I don't have to entirely worry about him losing his mind because we came in, our second quarter numbers were absolutely horrible and blah, blah, blah. We both come from the mindset of just send the help that you're requesting. We'll figure out the details later on. So a little bit of what we do, two different types of our apparatus. I drive around this vehicle on the right, which is a 2017 Ford Explorer Police Interceptor. I believe it was retired from Battle Creek Police. And yes, it does go fast. And no, I can't let you drive it. On the left is one of our drone support rigs. That's 4584, now actually renumbered to 4574 because we put a medical license on that for our races. And that is a retired international ambulance that does not have a cot and has way more electronics than medical equipment as far as drones go. That actually carries, so not only do we carry a bunch of type of drones, but we also carry climbing equipment because we have found people in all sorts of predicaments in our time. And those are uphills, downhills, the whole 9 yards. So with that, we keep basic climbing gear on our rigs in case we need to go down or up to somebody. We also have part of the reason why my boss went with retired ambulances at first is because they're built with an inverter. And believe it or not, we have a lot of batteries we have to charge for the different platforms of drones that we carry and utilize. So the only real vehicle that he knew of at the time when he started this venture was ambulances, because you think about all the stuff that patients sometimes have on their or that accompany them to either in between hospitals or whatnot. And you have to power all that. So that's was the philosophy. But now we can just take the big old inverter that we used to have in the ambulances and we stick it in the back of Ford Explorer Interceptors. And so if you were to look in the back of my car, I got a huge inverter in there, but it's charging batteries, it's charging controls, it's sometimes charging your cell phone when you're out on a call forever. Basically, we bring our own. The idea is to be self-sufficient on scene for a while, and that's exactly how we design our trucks. A little bit better look. Let's see, on the left here we have 4589, which is our boat, which is, like I stated before, has 3 different sonar capabilities. It has side scan, underwater 360 view, and then forward. I'm going to butcher this and I apologize. Forward facing is our newest one. And all basically the antennas are placed in different parts of the boat. In the middle is actually during our St. Patrick's celebration, I was assigned to this truck and thought, oh, I'll park at the north end of town. And so ends up getting the state of Michigan outline and the drones as they're doing the drone show. Right after that, I got banged out for a call and had to take off from there. So it was kind of, I like the picture because it's Wesco. Wesco's kind of a Michigan thing. And then the furthest right picture is a stack of show drones getting ready to be put out. I think this is last year in Minnesota, just outside of Minneapolis, was the show I was assigned to. Because I also work on that side. But like I said, I don't control those shows. I just basically put the drones where they tell me to put them. So the next picture here. Anybody know what we're looking at all? Yes. It is a dog. It is 2 different bodies. This gentleman is laying down in the middle of, or actually behind a cemetery in a forest. This is MSP's K954 and his canine partner. And it's a still shot. I have the video for this later on, but this is actually one of the last live rescues that I attended. I actually had Gary, who you saw his picture earlier on, who I mentioned. Gary is actually at the flight controls here, and we're searching for this gentleman here who we were called out because The gentleman basically was going to visit his grandpa and then go and lay down in the forest and hopefully take his own life. And so those are calls where it's either we're not going to get there in time because they have their mind made up, or we're going to get there, we're going to search around, and we're going to find this cat. This was one of those times we're going to get there, we're going to search around, and we found this cat. So, which is awesome because we don't get a lot of wins. And there's a whole litany of issues and things that happen between when the police get a phone call for a rescue and when we get involved. Although we are teaching our deputies and our police officers, call early, call often. But this was one of those cases where they called early, and this gentleman had taken a smorgasbord of pills. Went visited grandpa at the cemetery where he was buried, and then walked out into the woods, kind of just la-di-da, and that's where he laid down. So at this point, I arrive on scene. Gary had been there. I says, you know what? I'm gonna let you fly this for a little bit, see what you come up with. Gary's experienced. He's just working through getting his Part 107 license so that he can fly on his own. So I hand him the controls. I'm like, start flying a grid. All right. He starts flying around. He's like, sees that and is like, is that? I kind of looked and he started to fly away. He was like, nah, that's a deer. And I'm like, go back to that spot. And we have, what I didn't mention is in our trucks, we have TV screens in every one of the back of our trucks so that we can put this on the big screen. So about it's 42, 48 inches in that truck. So a little bit smaller than this, but about same blown up. And I see this spot and I'm like, that's not a deer, bro. That's a person. So this is a still shot, and you'll see in the video, what ends up happening is we have to walk, Canine was over to the northwest of this location. We had to kind of guide him in to where this guy was because it's all swamp, briars, trees. I mean, if this was summertime, this is during the winter, but if this were summertime, this would be completely covered with tree leaves on the trees, which is ends up being a whole mess. Of course, we do patriotic and the normal town fair stuff. This is actually escorting the veterans home from honor flight. So this is over at the Portage Central High School. They put, of course, the fire department puts up the American flag tied off on the ladder truck, and I think one of the towing companies had the other side of it. I just thought it was a cool picture to throw in. That truck was parked at my house for a time, so I took that truck instead of 81. But we do, especially this weekend, we'll have the Glad Peach Parade again, August 2nd and 3rd, all day. This is actually, and then I included this one because, like I said, not all of our cases end up being a happy ending, or we find Granny Gums or we find little Johnny. And this is actually my first case solo as a pilot. And let me tell you, I had 100 different feelings going on, like, oh my gosh, this is my first run solo. I had my wife was with me, and Jeff, who was actually I hadn't even made captain yet. So this is the back of Jeff's truck. He's actually, his POV is set up with a screen and everything else. I'm flying around trying to find missing 23-year-old that commented he was going to commit suicide. We do this a lot, if you haven't figured out. And the bad part was, normally I learned from this, if your family, stay over there. But this one I was like, the dad comes up, hey, thanks for coming out and searching for my son, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no problem. That's what we do. Can I watch? Absolutely. But I'm going to warn you, if we come across him and he's done what he said he's going to do, you are going to see some things you're not going to unseen. There's not enough eye bleach in the world. He's like, oh, that's cool. And he's telling us as he's standing there how he just graduated from Western 3 days ago. He's headed to some prestigious law firm. Once he passes the bar, I mean, it was everything you don't want to hear on the rescue or public safety side about the subject you're looking for. But I'm fine. I'm doing my thing and I'm just kind of half paying attention, letting Jen and Jeff kind of, corral him, make sure that uh what he and or he doesn't end up seeing something. Sure enough, I come across something and I can't tell from the vantage point of the drone, thankfully, because of the tree, for the canopy we refer to it as. I couldn't see an entire body in the tree there, but I saw enough. I was able to guide deputies to where he was at. He hung himself in the tree 3 days after graduating because his girlfriend broke up with him. You want to talk about feeling like the worst person in the world? And that was my first case as a licensed drone operator. I was like, I need to quit. I got out of this for a minute. Like, I need to go back to like not doing public safety. But that was I throw this in here because number one, again, our cases are not all, we found them, yay. The ability's there. Do not get me wrong. Look 5 years ago, and you wouldn't have even had drone capability with most of your police, fire, EMS departments or search and rescues. And now we have the unique situation of we're able to provide a bunch of police, fire, and EMS bureaus and our drone coverage or drone assistance with missing persons or whatever the case may be. And then you have multiple departments that have gotten a drone program going and whatnot. The cool thing about ours is because we're private, we can contract with a bunch of people, keep the costs down, and then that way your department doesn't have to worry about the cost of pilots and the cost of upkeep on the drone and buying a drone that's going to be good enough for a couple of years until the technology leapfrogs it and whatnot. But it also goes to show that we can get there and we can find what's going on, but sometimes it's just never going to be a great outcome no matter what how fast you get there, how good your drone is. And also it brings me to a point, drones do not have X-ray. I cannot see through walls. So if I put my drone up out there, I'm gonna see the reflection of the drone off the windows and that's about it. I can't see through walls. SWAT lies to you if you're an avid watcher of SWAT on CPS. But I will take you through that valley and bring you right back up. This here, we were posted up at this house here, and I don't have good stills of this to be able to have been able to put it in my presentation, but one of my first calls with Great Lakes was to this house here. 74-year-old male has beginning signs of dementia, walked away from his house 4 hours prior to us getting called out. Ambient air temperature, 27 degrees. This is February 3rd-ish of 2024. No, 23, excuse me. That's the house he walked away from. A minute 47 seconds after we landed, our response time was an hour. Statistically, we weren't supposed to find him alive based on those odds, just because temperature, what he had going on medically, because he also walked with a limp, so that's another hard one. Minute 40 seconds after we landed on scene and got the drones up, that's where he was found. That is 0.8 of a mile. Trust me, I ran it, and then measured it out later on. 0.8 of a mile from his house, and he was down. So as a VO at the time, our deputies were headed towards him, and we ended up giving them the wrong directions. I'm like, guys, to my pilot, do you want me to start where he's at? Yes. So I go taking off through the woods, taking off through the field. He's right across. I can see the drone's green and red lights flashing. It can't be that far. Measure once, cut twice, I guess, or something to that effect, because that was a long way. I was a little winded after getting to him. And luckily, nice gentleman, spoke Spanish, started speaking Spanish, and I'm like, Huevadinos? Soy Bombadero? He's like, I can speak English. I'm like, thank God, because my Spanish is horrible after this point. But again, this is one of our first runs that I was assigned to with Great Lakes, and it turned out to be a great outcome. But the other side of that reality, I'll bring you back down now that you're up again, is that's Kevlar. That's bullet resistant material, bullet vest that I have to carry in my vehicle. Why? Because of course the emergency line wasn't forwarded. Excuse me 1 second. Apologies, they hung up. Our emergency line to the office rings through to my, or is immediately forwarded to my phone. Typically, I'm not presenting when I'm on call, so my apologies for that. But anyway, the stark reality though is that as much as I was like, hey, I'm gonna get into drone rescue. Why? Because I'm not gonna be on the front lines. I've already done that for way too long. I'm not gonna have to listen to anybody hurt, stabbed, shot, maimed, or having their stuff broken into or beat up or whatever. And I'm not going to have to listen to anybody saying, my house is on fire, hurry the heck up. And yet here I am a couple years after I said, no more of this crap, in body armor, looking for a suspect that ran away from a car chase on 94 and they ran south of the highway. And I'm just, I snapped a selfie because I think my wife texted me, are you still out there? And I'm like, yep. But that is body armor that I keep in my vehicle because we've had our drones shot at. We've had our drones, our teams approached and like, what are you doing here? Why are you spying on me? There is a neighbor close by to our office that approached us one night after training when I was giving a new pilot some just basic lessons on how to fly the drone, how to kind of maneuver things. Came up and asked us, so the medical calls, they're a front so that you can run surveillance on everybody in town, right? And I'm like, what? So we face that as well. So every now and again, we have calls that we have to, that I'm like, don your body armor, park in a space that you can get out of, but also can see everybody coming up to you. And it's wild that I have to say that in 2025, but it's also kind of fits the narrative of things go a little sideways on scenes and whatnot. So, the videos. I'll escape that real quick. I will move over to my. So you're wondering what a drone can do during a fire, right? I'll skip around a little bit here real quick. That's not the video I wanted. Bear with me 1 second. That's what a drone can do during a fire. Now, I know you see probably some reels on FaceSpace and whatnot that says there's drones out there with water carrying capability and whatnot, can put fires out from an elevated area. Great, fine and dandy. I'm not gonna place a almost $10,000 piece of machinery into a fire or even that close to a fire. But what I can do is put the drone over top of the building that's on fire. And granted, this fire's cooking off pretty good. This fire's going. This is not something that we're going to, it's smoldering and we're going to be like, hey, we can't find it. This fire's cooking. This is a worker if you're a firefighter and in the business. And you see that down here the guys are spraying water into the backside of this house, trying to get it to the seat of the fire and whatnot. But what thermal gives us now is the ability to see, okay, if this was just kind of cooking off in the walls, okay, you can't see it, you smell something burning, but you can't find it or feel it, what's burning. And I apologize to this side of the room because I keep walking over there to make examples and, well, you have a screen and everything else right over here. So I'm going to come over here. We have put our drone up more times than not and been able to find where the hot spots are in the house long before it ever presents itself by blowing through the wall or blowing out the roof or anything like that. We have documented where we have saved or helped the fire department save buildings and structures and cars and, well, maybe not cars. Cars cook off pretty fast, not gonna lie. But we've helped save hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of homes and buildings because we're able to put the drone up and with the thermal say, it's on that corner. And the fire department goes, wow, that must be voodoo magic. And it's like, no, it's thermal. Get used to it. This is a thing now. And as you see in this video, this is a recent video of fire that we attended, believe in Waterville. But as you see, it's cooking off of the porch, worked its way into the structure, and it's already through the roof and working on kind of working its way this way. And you see, you still have hot spots here. That's probably like the air vent or something for the furnace. So you have a little bit of that here. It might be running this roof, but I doubt it just based on how that roof looks in the construction. There's a firefighter in me. That's all the building construction you're going to get out of me. But in this case, we also can tell, all right, fire's here. Has it run the roof? Has it, or is it contained just to this part? Can we save this part of the home? Because maybe this is the garage. You can rebuild a garage fairly simply if nobody's ever told you. But we have that ability and not a lot of fire departments have jumped on it yet. Our local fire departments have because they've seen firsthand where exactly or how exactly the technology can help them. And they've been on, and unfortunately to say, it's been one of those deals where we've just had to show up on one of their fires, fly it, and then fire chief's like, I don't know what's going on. We smell something burning about here, but we don't really put the drone up 5 minutes later. Hey, tell your guys, peel this wall, spray the water, cool that down. And sure enough, they peel the wall, spray the water, cool it down, stop the fire, stop the loss. This video goes about 15 minutes. I'm not going to let it run that entire time just so that way, because I have no clue how long I've been talking for, about 45 minutes. So I come back to my presentation here. Oh, I was going to show you one more, and that was video 4. Come on. So the case I told you about where the gentleman was going to go say goodbye to his grandpa and then go out in the woods, that is this case here. And this is part 1 of the video. Oh, it's kind of stuck there, isn't it? I'll put it on the bottom because I think, actually, let's put it on the top. So this is what we look at when we're on the working thermal, looking for somebody out in the area, and that is hotspots. It's all we're doing. All the thermal sees and tells us is the different temperatures between and basically this is let's see, this is December 5th. So it was a overcastish day, but you can see where the sun's hitting some parts of the trees. So you can tell the west is this way, east is that way because it's already cooled down. Let's see here, what are we looking at? But again, imagine it's today. It's 90 degrees out and we got to go search for somebody. This will look totally different. It will be bright yellows all across. And sometimes you're actually looking for the cooler part in your viewfinder versus the hot part of the viewfinder. So if you ever call us for a lost dog and I say, I won't be able to get out there till about midnight, 2 a.m., there's a reason why. I'm not gonna look during the day for a lost pet because they're gonna blend in so well with the area. I don't have a chance of finding a doggo or kitty with the thermal. I have to wait till the earth cools a little bit and then I can do my thing. Let's see, this video is 8 minutes, which is about the time it took us to circle, or actually, I think it was not that long because we'll fast forward a little bit here. Duck blind. There's deer. No, this isn't even the correct video. My apologies. That's the field we searched beforehand. And 7. Is that the one I just played? Yes. All right. So we have and that's my partner actually panning the camera up to kind of look. Now, we're not looking at typically we're not looking at just the thermal or just the visual aspects of our drone. Usually we have our displays side by side, as you saw in the fire video. Our displays are side by side, so we're looking at the thermal as well as the visual simultaneously, typically. Now at night, that visual is useless because as soon as you get out of any lighted area, it's done. It's all black. But the thermal during the day, if we're called out for a search, sometimes I turn the thermal off because it's useless to me and I need to go with a visual search, and that becomes a whole long elongated thing. But as you see here where the cursor kind of is, that is where I believe we kind of are like, that's a person. No, that's a deer. No, that's a person. No, that's a deer. And you'll see us kind of hover and change directions or change how we're looking at that spot. And that's all typically just to get a better angle of what we're looking at. There we go, a little bit better. And you're gonna see him move around and kind of spin around. We're on the radio at this point talking with those guys that walked out into the field, and they are like, hey, where's it at? And if we don't have them within the viewfinder, it's kind of, hey, we're gonna lower down to about 100 feet above ground, or we're gonna turn our spotlight if it's on, if it's dark, or we're gonna do this. So as you see, MSP Canine and his partner are walking up. And I think Doggo actually goes, yep, Doggo kind of walks past him. And I think we get on the radio and like, no, go back. And then Doggo realized, oh, hey, there's somebody over here. Let me hop that. Hey, I found him. And he's barking, hey, over here. And I think our trooper is kind of like, how do I get over there? So. But that is the latest rescue I have, that we were able to get him up the hill to an ambulance, and so far he still is around to tell the tale of how a drone and a dog found him. Let's see here. I know my time is winding down, so any questions? Sir. Oh. Yeah, that probably worked too.
Basically, that countryside you were going across with the man and the dog, with the dog, is pretty rough countryside, or
Yes.
okay.
It's
but
a mix between, I think there was a creek bed through there, and so it's swampy. It's got the, your normal briars and underbrush, and then trees to boot.
what redirected the dog? You said you had how were you able to get?
Typically, we're communicating on radio. We have access to most of our agencies anyway. We have common radio channels that we have access to and can talk back and forth. So usually we're at the drone truck. No, turn to your right, stop, walk forward. I can't walk forward. There's, whatever. Okay. Well, the dude is about from what I can tell from the air, about 10 yards in front of you. And so sometimes you got to spell it out in those terms, but sometimes you can tell people, east, west, north, south, and about, five ticks or something to that effect. So just all depends. And then sometimes too, it's you're on a cell phone and they're on a cell phone. Okay, where am I going? Turn to your left. No, your other left.
Okay, first a general question and then a more technical question. For the general question, when they're doing very complex aerial shows, it would seem it would take a computer to run those because they're so complex that I don't imagine any lots of humans talking to each other could do that.
No, our primary for drone shows is usually computer programming, split between, I think Blender is the actual programming that the drones take to go up in the sky and make the shapes and everything. But it's assisted by Python for some of the processes of making the shapes and whatnot. That is, we have 2 designers on staff who are always have work, it seems like. And so that is our primary means. Now because we have to have backup systems in case that one fails, we can send it via radio, which is about 800 or 900 megahertz. I think 900 megahertz if I'm recalling. And we can send the signal to the drones, but we can't receive it. Versus our normal system is actually a local Wi-Fi system, believe it or not. The final way, if both of those systems go down and we cannot communicate, is we have to grab a hand controller and hand control and usually at that point, we're stopping the show and we're bringing the drones down one by one and hoping that the battery lasts long enough that we can get all 100, 200, 400, 500 down in a safe and efficient manner. We haven't had to do it. Knock on wood.
And the second part of the question is for your initial pilot training, does that have to do with 500-foot altitude limit for ceiling or aerodrome deconfliction or other basic things about flight areas?
So part of it is just the basic 107 course, which is deconfliction, crew resource management, reading charts, making sure you're in proper airspace to do it. We are limited to 400 foot above ground. However, we can waiver to go above that, or if you're near a building, you can actually fly up to 400 feet away from the building, no matter what height that is. Or maybe 100 feet. I don't do a lot of inspections either, so it's kind of one of those, oh, great detail. Off it went. But a lot of times too, like I can't technically right now, if I were to go to the airport and try to fly, I can't. I will have a discussion with the FAA and the tower. I will lose my license and I probably will never get it back. However, because of what we do, we were invited last May, or not this last May, the previous May, to Kalamazoo Airport while they held their triannual emergency response training and exercise. And I literally was flying about 50 feet above where they were on their de-icing pad, doing this mock disaster basically, where a plane crashed, and about 200 yards away from where we were flying, there was an active runway with flights, all sorts of flights between private Cessnas and commercial jets in and out all the time. So about every 5 minutes or so, my controller just starts violently shaking with big red letters. You need to drop altitude. Your imminent crash is imminent. I'm like, no, it's not. Shut up. You're fine. And kept flying. But we've done that as well. Typically, we have to have 500 feet away from a cloud base. We have flown shows with permission, waiver permission to where we've come right up to the cloud base because, well, the Lions show that we put on last year was one of them where we didn't have the cloud ceiling. My boss was able to make a couple phone calls, and next thing I know, we have a waiver for just don't crash. It was kind of the gist of it in federal government speak. So.
Hi, I was counsel as drone to this United Soybean Board 10 years ago, and we bumped into Amazon wanting airspace. Where did Amazon end up putting their NK-30 drone for deliveries? Is it 500 feet or so above, or what?
I feel like it's 500. It sticks in my mind, but honestly, I don't deal with Amazon enough because most of Amazon's drone programs are in major metropolitan. Like I think Portland is one, and Fort.
Well, they're doing Arizona and Texas delivery now.
Yes. And so it's populated areas, so they're doing a whole thing with that and not necessarily, I've not experienced it. So honestly,
Yeah,
other than I
that's
know
fine.
they shut down
Just
one of their arms and move those people over to the other part. I don't know.
No, no worries. I figure they're up there around 500 and someday they'll drop off a pizza on my front door.
I'm curious about the water rescues
Okay.
that you do, and I've never heard of the drones going below water. We've owned a couple of drones and had to watch out where you can fly those things because they're getting more restrictive all the time. So do you launch them off a boat to get out to the area? How do you do that?
So that's kind of a mixed bag because no, our flying drones do not go in the water. Our water drones do not go in the sky. We have specific drones that go underwater that are designed for that. However, we have where our aerial drones, we will fly over an area and start searching. If it's an active search, like this person just went down in the water, we'll put the drone up first and start scanning the water as we're waiting for one of our water resources to get there, either the boat or the underwater drones. Most of our trucks, primary trucks out though, have some type of underwater capability as well as aerial capability though. So we also have the ability to drop a rescue float from the drone. So if it's like way far out in the water, like say that we're talking like Michigan type stuff, and resources are a few minutes out or a few minutes out, we can actually get resources out there before even somebody comes. So if they don't have it.
I've got very little background on drones, or drones, and that. If you could do us a favor, what are the various classes of drones there? What is something that a amateur would use? What's something that you would use? What's something the military would use? And then what are the classes of pilots that are necessary to deal with those drones?
So right now, as it stands with the FAA, there's only one class of pilot, and that's remote pilot. Now they're working on rolling out what's called BVLOS, or Beyond Visual Line of Sight. Because right now under Part 107, unless you have waivers or your company has waivers, you have to be able to look up, see that drone, and then fly and whatever. Well, most of the time, my head's here. I'm never, and whatnot. I'm also not walking around when I'm doing that because I can't walk and chew bubble gum at the same time some days. But they are coming out with, the FAA is working on Part 108, which will allow for beyond visual line of sight input and codify basically how that is to work and what necessary steps you have to have in order to do that. Because what they're seeing is a lot more, hey, this is, it has to do with the docks that are coming onto the market now. That was the easy part of the question. The harder part is that as a commercial drone pilot, I can fly anything up to 55 pounds, from like 55 grain or 0.55 grains to 55 pounds. And it's basically class 1 through 4. Typically, I fly a class 2, which is a DJ. If you're familiar with any of the airframes, we fly DJI. I know there's a lot of in the news about, oh, you got to get rid of DJI. They're spying on us. Okay. If China really cares about what's in my backwoods, cool. I don't care because that's the best airframe on the market and the best cameras on the market right now. And they are leaps and bounds beyond what the US counterparts are offering. So the bad part is that if all of this stuff in Washington takes effect, I essentially have a very, very expensive paperweight and have to explain to my wife, well, I can't really get rid of it. So it's nostalgia. We've made saves with it and whatnot. But typically if you're getting into the business of drones, small airframe like your Mavic minis, your Mavic Airs, they're tiny FPV even. They're about this big. And typically either they have goggles or they have some kind of remote where you're watching where you're flying and whatnot. And that's a lot of like just I'm going to go take some pictures of the lighthouse, or I'm going to go take some pictures of the group as they, run in the park or whatever. Now my drone that you saw some of the footage from is Mavic 3T, which is the T is thermal, or tons of money. As I throw out sometimes, but it's, that is typically my first out drone on any call out that I go on, is I can literally pop a battery in it, set it down on the bed of my truck if I'm driving my pickup, or if I'm in the Explorer, set it in a clear space behind me enough that it's not going to hit the lift gate when I go to launch, and off I go. But we do have larger frames, larger airframe, which is more towards your 55-pound limit, which is a Matrice 300, and they just came out with a Matrice. There's the 30T, and there's the 4 and the 350. Is the latest model of that. But we have a 300 and a 200, and this is where it's got the interchangeable cameras on it. So if you want to, if we're going to film something that's going to go on to a film, cinematography type stuff, we've got that ability. We can pop that camera on, and it makes a really great photo. I am not a photographer, as you can tell by some of my video. But we can also flip that out and put a thermal on it. We can flip it out and put a multi spectral camera on it. So a lot of it just depends on what the options are readily available and where we're at in the process of, what we figured out we can do with drones and how the companies have made that commercially available. So. Yes, so so it all depends on what we can't carry much with ours, and then you get into some FAA rules about, okay, if we carry it, can we drop it? Because then you get into Part 137, which is a whole subset, and that's actually on the farm robotics side of our company. We have to have a Part 137 license in order to do the aerial spraying. So we hold that, but as far as dropping other materials, we would have to be approved as well.
So that's a separate class.
That's a whole nother degree track, if you will.
Okay.
As far as flight time, it all depends on the drone. My drone typically can stay up about 30 to 45 minutes, just depending on, and I always say with varying conditions, like today, it's a little hot. So once it gets warmed up, it's going to drain the battery. But if it's also cold, it's going to drain the battery fast because it's trying to stay warmed up. But on average, 35 to 40 minutes, about with my 3T. The Matrice 300, the big drone, we can pop batteries in there and it can stay up for about an hour. But again, depending on terrain and what we're doing, and if we're just standing static, usually it's okay. But if we're flying around on a mission trying to find somebody, then you start depleting some of that battery life. But we just come in, swap batteries, and then off we go.
All right, thank you.
So when you're flying like a really say a $10,000-$15,000 drone, are there some automatic controls built into the system that keeps you from like inadvertently running into the ground as often as
Yes and no.
I can envision myself doing that?
So I had the unfortunate displeasure of, I was on a suspect search early in the morning, but it was daybreak because we actually had sunlight, and didn't realize my drone was further out than what it was. And I started banking down to come in to land to change out my battery. Well, what I didn't realize is there was a set of woods between the farm field I was looking at and the farm field I was banking in on to land, and ended up crashing out my drone. So I tell that story because of this. The drones do have sensors. In fact, they're visual position sensors. They do great during the daylight. As soon as the sun starts thinking about going below the horizon or starts headed that way is when it goes, I'm done. And I don't have visual position sensing anymore. And the reason for that is just because the cameras are not what's on the gimbal. And so 9 times out of 10, if I do a night flight, which is most of the time when I'm called out, is usually dusk, evening. Every now and again, I get a day call, but for the most part, it's nighttime, and those are useless. So I can change the mode. In some drones, there is another, like either sonar or something that it will sense something's coming up, and you can tell it to either stop You can tell it to go home, or you can tell it, ignore it, just give me the beeper before I run it into the tree, which nobody really wants to do with $10,000 worth of machinery. But there are people out there that want to live vicariously through Knievel. However, so they do have stuff on it that, and DJI for the longest time had where based on your GPS location, your lat and long, it wouldn't even allow you to take off. So like if like one of our trucks, our Kalamazoo truck is kept at the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Department in jail. If I wanted to test until we had our waivers, or if I had to reload those waivers because somebody logged the controller out of our company's system, I couldn't even take off from the jail with that drone until I either logged in. So it says, oh yeah, I've got a standing waiver for this because I can go wherever I want. Or it'd be like, nope, good luck, go east, young man, and off, and whatnot, because you're not flying here. But up until the whole thing with the federal government and the possible ban, DJI was very much like, nope, don't fly here. Don't, if it's a sensitive military installation to even some schools, they were like, no, you're not flying over this unless you have waivers or something in the system that says you can. And that was a whole separate unlock process from the FAA. So, when we finally got to that point, we started unlocking our drones. At first, my boss, myself, and like one other person had that ability that our drones were unlocked. We could fly anywhere. We just had to say, yep, I accept the risk of this flight, and off we went. But we eventually rolled it out to all of our drones in our fleet. So I covered everything on that question, right?
This is a zero experience question. For those of us who've never flown a drone and want to be curious, George, a number of years ago at Cobblestone Hobbies, they had these cute little dinky drones, a couple inches by the cash register. And I thought, cool, I'll take those at home, try to fly and chase my wife around. And then also later I thought, well, maybe a bigger one. I can look on top of a building I've got because the guy across the street was shooting fireworks and I thought he burned holes through the fabric for roof leaks. So with those two instances, I would figure how would the experience level, what do you got to do to start to learn to fly if I pull on the box, which I haven't for years?
So my experience is this, like I'm very big on going to Harbor Freight, right? And Harbor Freight actually has a little drone for $35 or something like that. You can buy off the shelf, charge the batteries, and you're good to fly. However, the control of keeping that drone in the air, good luck, because I never mastered it. There's another instance I tell of. My daughter was with my wife and I, and we went there was a new arcade in the mall in Mishawaka, and they had a drone that you could get, you play a stupid game, win a ton of tickets and take it to the counter or whatever. Why the heck am I even explaining that? But the point or the idea was, they had a drone. So we used our tickets, got the drone, and I literally flew that sucker into a tree like the first, and I was like, no more. And so it sits in my barn. Yes, sir.
I can answer this question. So I have a DJI drone. It's about this big. They're $200. They're AI. So it doesn't even have a control. You look at it and it recognizes your face. And you can give it commands. You can say like fly drone, it will fly out, and then you hold your hand, it'll come back and land on your hand. You can tell it to follow you, so it will follow you from behind, and you can walk somewhere and it will follow you. You can tell it to follow you in front, so it will fly in front of you as you walk towards something. It can circle around you. So if you want, next time you're in, I could bring it in and I could show it to you. It's $200. It requires no knowledge whatsoever of flying. Just as a comment though, we call them aerobatic pilots, not stunt
Yes.
pilots.
Yes,
But I don't think pilots would take kindly to.
they usually don't.
It's the last one.
Who gets the bill for your service and what's the average cost?
So when we bill It basically, if it's one of our public safety partners that we contract with, it's usually, I think they pay anywhere from 1,500 a year, if it's like a small police department, to $5,000 or $8,000. And again, it depends on how big the department is, what their run volume is, how much they utilize the service and whatnot. But the original idea was to kind of crowdsource. If you get enough departments on board with this model, the less money they would end up having to pay in the long run. But again, we also have gone to when in 2022, when Marquette had, I think it was Marquette, had the big warehouse fire that was going for 2 weeks up there. We were called as part of Michigan Mabus to go and fly overwatch of that scene while they try to continue to contain that. We maintain that if you need the service, call. Now, on the flip of that, we also do lost animal rescue. That is typically we bill that at $150 an hour. And then just depends on how many hours we're out there and what we're looking for and whatnot. So.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Don't for everybody, the monthly meeting is tomorrow at the Miller, and on the 14th is Wally's Summer Sizzle.